On the 18th of June 2023, a commercial submarine designed to tour the famous wreckage of the Titanic went missing with 5 people on board. The submersible hadn't sent a signal in just under 2 hours and was bolted shut from the inside, meaning the passengers were trapped with nothing to do but wait for rescue. 4,000 meters below the sea level, in the cold and in the dark. Nobody had any idea where the vessel was, and at this point there was just over 90 hours of breathable oxygen left for the passengers on board. Today we're going to go through all the details of the case, how this happened, why this happened, what likely went wrong, and what mistakes, if any, were made. So grab a drink, grab a seat, and come with me as we explore the tragedy of the Titanic Submersible. So this one, at the time of recording, is a very recent case. But there's some confusion and lack of information, so let's map it out and explore it. So this vessel, named the Titan, was the only 5-person submarine in the world capable of going down to these depths. There are other vessels capable of going down to these depths, but not with this capacity. So before we begin, numbers and words don't really do this depth justice. So here's a visual representation of just how deep the wreckage was. It is stunningly deep and dark down there, and is definitely not a place that I would want to go. So primarily made for the purpose of taking people on tours to visit the wreckage of the Titanic for the low price of $250,000. So the Titanic itself is super interesting, and it's something I might deep dive into later on in a later video. But for those who haven't seen the film, the Titanic was a large ship that sunk after hitting an iceberg while crossing the Atlantic Ocean, killing more than 1,500 people on board. So the wreckage of the Titanic, which was later found, is what the Titan was designed for, to take people on commercial explorations of the wreckage. So the passengers on board included billionaire explorer Hamish Harding, French diver Paul-Henri Nargeolet, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, Suleiman Dawood. Also on board was the owner of the sub, OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. So the mothership that carried the Titan out to its diving spot was called the Polar Prince, and it sailed off the coast of Newfoundland around 900 miles to the site of the Titanic wreckage. So what likely went wrong? To answer that, we need to go through the timeline and the events of the last few days, and a little bit into the background of the owner and the company. Just a quick note, if you enjoy this type of content, then subscribe to the channel for more, and if you like the video, then like the video. So on Sunday the 18th of June, with these 5 people on board, the sub started its descent. The Titan was supposed to send out a ping every 15 minutes indicating its location, but just under 2 hours into the descent, the pings stopped. The dive takes around 2 hours to get from the surface to the site of the wreckage, which is around 4,000 meters below the surface, which, if you remember from the little infographic before, that is very deep. And there was just about 96 hours of breathable oxygen for the 5 passengers on board. That means that at this stage, at the first sign of trouble, there was just under 4 days to find the vessel before the inevitable happened. So they dove down at 8 a.m., the ping stopped at around 10 a.m., and they were scheduled to return up to the surface at around 3 p.m. So after the vessel didn't resurface, the crew decided to raise the alarm with the authorities at around 6 p.m. By this stage, it had been around 10 hours since the Titan first submerged. On the morning of Monday, 19th, the next day, authorities revealed that the Titan was missing and a large search operation was begun. So at this stage, everyone and their mother was helping with the search and rescue. The US Coast Guard had begun a sweeping search of a 5,000 square mile area. The Canadian Coast Guard was also taking part in the search and rescue, with aircrafts and ships. Various aircrafts, some with sonar capabilities, were dispatched for the search, 2 of which being the P-8 Poseidon and the C-130 Hercules. It should be noted that the area they had to search for the Titan in was huge. It is a very large, remote area that takes a long time to get to. And to add to that, they weren't entirely sure what level the Titan was even at. Some people thought it might have got stuck on some of the Titanic wreckage and so be 4,000 meters deep, and some thought perhaps there was maybe a mechanical or electrical failure, at which case the vessel might have either reached a certain level of buoyancy and was somewhere in the middle of the ocean, or it had reached full buoyancy and was floating around on the surface. Nobody really knew, so this just made the search like 100 times harder. On Tuesday afternoon, the company responsible for the vessel, OceanGate, confirmed that its CEO and founder, Stockton Rush, was one of the passengers on board. Over the course of Tuesday, more and more agencies and crafts joined the search, with authorities claiming to have searched a total area of 7,600 square miles, which is an area larger than the state of Connecticut. And at this point, there was just about 40 hours of oxygen left on board. On Wednesday, it was reported that a Canadian aircraft had detected banging noises every half hour using something called a sonobuoy. So these are basically these tubular devices that can be dropped from a plane into the water. There's a few different types of these sonobuoys, but for the most part they float on or in the water. Some only listen for incoming sounds, and some will actually send out sonar signals of their own and listen to see what, if anything, they're bouncing off of. Stuff like this is essential for underwater searches, as stuff like GPS just doesn't work underwater, unfortunately. 4 hours later, there was additional sonar that was deployed, and the banging was still heard every half hour, so resources were relocated to the area of the banging. Still, more people and vessels joined the search, one of which being the French ship Atalante, which had on board the remote-operated Victor 6000, which is capable of carrying a winch down to the possible depths that the Titan would be at. If the Victor 6000 was able to find the Titan, it hopefully would be able to attach the winch on it, and then the ships would be able to pull it up to the surface. The Victor 6000 was one of, if not the best hope of rescuing the Titan. The Royal Canadian Navy also supplied a hyperbaric recompression chamber in case the Titan had to be pulled up too quickly and the people depressurized too quickly. On Thursday, the large search team continued its increasingly desperate search, as this was the last day that there would reasonably be oxygen left for the passengers. At the time of recording this, the search continues, and we are 4 hours past the deadline for the oxygen running out. Hey guys, sorry for the poor camera quality, but just as I'm recording this, the Titan has more or less been found. I'll still leave the potential scenarios in the video, as that's what was thought likely possible at the time. But it's been announced now that the vessel likely imploded after it dropped down to a certain depth, not being able to handle the pressure, and instantly killed everyone on board. And the rest of the video will take a look into the background of the company and the CEO to try and figure out why this happened. But yeah, that's just a quick update, so we're all on the same page. So, where did it all go wrong? Without the vessel and more information, it's kind of hard to tell. Some possible scenarios include maybe an electrical fire on board, leading to a loss of power. This would explain the lack of pings and would leave the vessel completely powerless, motionless, in the dark, and the cold. It's kind of terrifying. Another scenario is that the vessel failed to withstand the pressures of being that deep and imploded, which is basically like exploding, but inwards. If you just imagine a Coke can being crushed, that's basically what it is. It's not nice to think about, but it is a scenario. The implosion would happen almost instantly, and so the passengers probably wouldn't even be aware of what was happening. Another scenario is that it got caught on some wreckage of the Titanic somewhere at the bottom of the ocean. But for me, this doesn't really explain the lack of pings, so I think it's maybe the most unlikely of the scenarios. But from all the evidence we have so far, it seems to me that the likely origin of the failure, whatever it was the CEO of the company. There were a few things circulating that have been pointed out about the design of the vessel. The two big ones being that some of the interior lights were bought off the shelf in a camping store, and the fact that the vessel itself was being controlled by what was essentially a video game controller. So while these might seem a little bit whack, the light likely didn't cause a mechanical or electrical failure, and the video game controller, believe it or not, is completely industry standard. Large operations use them, the military uses them. If you type in military Xbox controller, it's been discussed for ages. I think they're just fairly robust, they're fairly easy to buy in bulk, they're quite familiar, and they seem to work well. So that's just kind of what's used by these types of companies. However, if you watch any of the interviews with the CEO, he seems to really dislike regulations. He prefers there to be less checks on operations and equipment. He thinks regulations stifle creativity and innovation efforts. He likes the idea of being a bit wild and maybe even recklessly adventurous, which is probably why he was in the business to begin with, but might have led to him cutting some corners and taking too much of a risk. So there was a few complaints written about the company about avoiding regulations, that sort of thing. The CEO preferred to hire young, creative people instead of older, more experienced people, as he said it led to more creativity in the business. Now, I don't think creativity is what you want when you're trapped 4,000 meters below sea level. You know, you wouldn't want your doctor to be described as creative. The viewport was only certified for depths of up to 1,300 meters, not the 4,000 meters that the Titanic wreckage was at. The vessel was made largely of carbon fiber, not titanium like a lot of the other vessels. And he is also quoted as saying, "You're remembered most for the rules that you break," which kind of says it all. So, that's where we stand today. It seems a bit dark, at least for me, to go into conspiracy theories, being that the incident is so recent. There are quite a few theories out there which I may dive into later on, no pun intended. A few of which being a murderous plot by the CEO, an attack by a deep sea creature like the Kraken, a hoax by one of the billionaires looking to disappear essentially, and of course aliens. I don't think any of these theories are super credible. It was likely just an oversight that led to some catastrophic failure that led to the eventual demise of the vessel and the passengers on board. I kind of respect these people for even daring to go on this mission, which is something I wouldn't do even if they paid me $250,000. But they're explorers. So this one was a tense, kind of sad one to live through. But if you'd like to see more like this, subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and as always guys, thanks for watching.